Hello, my name's Roisin and I'm sick of reading. Hello friends, and welcome to my final instalment in my 6 weeks, 6 genres challenge. This week I was reading horror for a week, which was the genre that I was most nervous about because I am a complete scaredy cat, and also because it felt so entirely off-piste. I have never read any books that could be considered horror before, I don't think, and I got freaked out when I went to the theatre to see The Woman in White, although not as freaked out as some of my classmates, but at the time I was very scared of it. However, there is something else that I feel like I need to address before we get into talking about the books and everything like that, and that is the reading rush. So the week that I was reading horror for a week was the reading rush week, and I'd lined up everything to go with the prompts that they had, the challenges to fulfill, and it was one of the readathons that I was really excited to do because it's one that I saw all over BookTube back when I just watched BookTube, and as this is my first year making videos, I really wanted to participate in this readathon and I was really looking forward to it. There have been several things that have happened with the reading rush that have not been good. They have not been handled sensitively. They have come from, it seems to be, a place of ignorance or lack of consideration, and a place of privilege. Now, as a white person myself, this is not really my place to entirely speak on, respond to completely, so I am going to leave in the description Starlah from StarlahReads channel's vlog, and Myonnareads from Mynameismarines, her vlog, and Myonna from Myonnareads, her video about this. I'm leaving them all in the description, and I would definitely urge you to go and check them out. They are 3 excellent booktubers. If you don't know who they are, I watch all their videos and I really enjoy watching them, so as well as them speaking on this topic, just their general videos are definitely worth watching as well. But I definitely felt like I had to mention it. So the main controversies that happened were that one of the tasks was to read a book entirely outside during a global pandemic. And the excuse given was that they came up with these things in January when coronavirus wasn't the same story as it was at the time that they announced it. However, they didn't announce it in January, and it would have been possible to change that, and they did not talk about amending it until after they had received backlash. The other thing was that they announced the video on Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a very important holiday, or it's not actually a national federal holiday, but people are campaigning for it to be, and I think it is a holiday in some states in the US, to commemorate the abolition of slavery. And it's on the 19th of June, and it was a day that was supposed to be dedicated to uplifting black voices in the community and for black people to be posting their videos about stuff, and they posted on Juneteenth, and it was insensitive. Now, they've talked about how they're Canadian, I am British, so Juneteenth was something that I'd heard of, but didn't really know anything about until this year. However, it was everywhere this year, and I feel like it would have been quite hard to miss. And then, finally, they had a group book. This was the biggest controversy, this was the big thing. They had a group book, which was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, which is a book that has been a massive bestseller and is now nominated for the Booker Prize for Fiction, and it is about a woman who is a black woman, and she babysits for this white woman's child, and when she takes her to a shop, someone accuses her of kidnapping the child, and a lot of the themes of the book are performative allyship. I haven't read the book, so I can't comment on the themes or anything in it, but they hadn't promoted it very well, lots of people saying they didn't know it was the group book, and then when the live show came around, it turned out they hadn't read the book, and they were just laughing and joking about it. Now, obviously it's quite unprofessional not to have read the group book and make a video about it, but this book specifically being about trying to promote black voices, also the fact that they had links to this book that they were making money off of, and then they didn't read it, and they didn't take it seriously when they didn't read it or reconfigure in any way, and then they gave an apology which was not well taken by members of the community for whom it is a pertinent apology to respond to. It's not really an apology I can accept or reject. They used language of excuses and of if it came across this way, or that was not our intention, which is not an apology with a qualification is not an apology, it's an excuse. All of these things mean that the reading rush is something that feels like, until there is a greater reckoning by the people who founded the reading rush and who are involved in it, it's something that I don't really want to partake in or participate in at the moment. However, this vlog was filmed when some of those things had happened but others hadn't, and I still wanted to get this video out because I worked really hard on it, and it's the finale of a 6-week-long project that I've been doing on this channel, and I can't just leave off the finale because it feels like that would be so much work that I've done gone. But I felt that I really needed, if I was going to post this, I really needed to address the things. So that is what I wanted to say. I'm not saying this as to tear down or cancel Ariel or Raylene, just that they need to think. And there has been another apology on Instagram recently, but again, I've heard people talking about the way that they worded that apology, and it's not an apology for me to accept anyway. So, but definitely go check out Starlah and Myonna and Mynameismarines, because they're all in the description. So, to talk about the books briefly, because now my introduction is incredibly long, for horror I am reading 3 books. I had to read 2 ebooks and 1 audiobook, because as someone who doesn't read horror, I also didn't own horror, and the libraries are still closed. As you may know, if you've watched my other videos in this series, I like to try and read a classic of the genre. And so for horror, I decided to read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson is one of the classic writers of the horror genre. The Haunting of Hill House has been adapted for a Netflix series, and it's definitely a sort of traditional haunted house type story. It is about 4 people who go to Hill House, which is a notoriously haunted place, and they're going there to see what they can find out about the haunting. Then I also decided to read Wilder Girls by Rory Power, because I like to read a book that is popular on BookTube, and Wilder Girls was spoken about a lot last year, and so I decided to read that. This is a YA book that's been described as Lord of the Flies at an all-girls school, and it is about these girls on an island in North America who start to develop these strange symptoms after this thing called the tox comes, which infects the island in which they live and also all the animals on it, and themselves. They start to like grow scales and vines, and they're all running out of food, and it's about what happens on the island, and it is described as body horror. And then finally, the third one that I wanted to read was My Mother's House by Francesca Momplaisir, which is another kind of haunted house story, or it's a story where a house is a central figure in it, and it is about this family that emigrated from Haiti to New York in the 1970s, I believe. Get this house, which is called La Caille, and it's a place where lots of people come to from the house, but they've had to escape from the coup in Haiti, and lots of terrible things happen in this house. We don't know what they are to begin with, but we kind of will start to know. And the house, at the beginning, decides that so much terrible things have happened inside it, it's going to burn itself down and kill everyone in there. So that's a really interesting plot, and I've wanted to read more Caribbean literature recently, so this Francesca Momplaisir is a Haitian American writer, so I'm very interested in reading that. So those are all of my horror books. Please remember to like this video if you liked it, and to subscribe, because I put out new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Hello, this is an exciting day because it is the start of the reading rush. It is the start of my reading horror for a week for my 6-week 6 genres challenge, which is the genre I am most frightened of, and it is also my last week of vlogging every day for 6 weeks for my 6-week 6 genre challenge. So all in all, it's an exciting day, and I am starting this having just been woken up from a nap by a medicine delivery, so I'm a bit all over the place, but you'll know from the intro what I'm reading and all that sort of jazz. I've also got to do the Instagram challenges for the reading rush, so today's is to recreate a book cover, and I'm going to be attempting to recreate Wilder Girls, which is this one. So there's going to be some like editing trickery going on, which I'm quite nervous about because it's not really the thing I do, but I just really got inspired and I wanted to try it. And maybe watch an episode of The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, but I'm definitely doing that before the sun goes down because I'm a scaredy cat, as I've already mentioned. But since the prompt was to read a book inspired by something you'd already watched, I need to watch it before I can start reading The Haunting of Hill House. But I think I'm going to be quite nervous this whole week. So I'm trying to do my makeup like the girl on the front of Wilder Girls, and she has very glossy lips and all around her nose, which I think is meant to indicate like that she's ill. So I've got this pink Vaseline, which is going to make me pink and also sticky, which I think is the ideal for this. She also has very clear freckles, and I am very freckly, but they don't always show up, so I might try and add some more freckles. Okay, so now I am incredibly shiny. So hopefully I look like I have a fever, and it will work for this picture that I'm going to try and set up now. Right, okay, this is what I'm doing so far. proof that a bob really wouldn't suit me, but I don't think it's a great hairdo, but hopefully it'll look good in the photo. I'm getting set up. I'm going to shoot it in here because this is kind of the same colour as the cover. Hello, so it is Tuesday and I did absolutely no reading yesterday, which is great. Well, I finished off my cozy mystery book for last week's vlog, but I've done no reading towards my reading horror for a week, reading rush situations. So I'm in the car, clearly, because my partner has gone into the supermarket to do our supermarket shop. So I'm going to start listening to my Francesca Momplaisir, My Mother's House, Haitian New York horror book, which is one that I'm excited for. Okay, so I have started My Mother's House by Francesca Momplaisir. It's interesting. It's told from multiple perspectives, so it's told from like a third person, but directed to the main character Lucien, in Haiti and travelling from Haiti to, he's just travelling to New York from Haiti, and then the other perspective is decades later, but it's from the perspective of the house, and the house wants to burn itself down and kill everyone inside it. So I think that's the horror part of it, is the homicidal, suicidal house. But I'm going to stop listening to that now because I like to have an audiobook and I don't want to waste my audiobook when I could be reading the ebooks that I have. So I'm going to start Wilder Girls now, because I don't want to read Shirley Jackson until I've watched more of the Netflix series. I watched the first episode yesterday. I want to watch a few more episodes because the first episode honestly was kind of boring, but hopefully it'll get more intriguing after that because it had to set everything up. Today's prompt is to cosplay as a book character, and the only book character that I vaguely have clothes for is Evelyn Hugo from the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So we are trying to do vintage curls. We'll see how well it works. Hopefully it'll work. Yesterday's one went down really well, which I'm really happy about because I am terrible at editing, so I'm glad people liked it regardless. So this is my attempt at Evelyn Hugo. I have the book somewhere, but I believe she was a blonde with more of a Marilyn kind of haircut. Anyway, I'm not going to cut my hair or buy a wig for a Instagram photo, so this is what we've got. Hello. So one of the challenges for the reading rush this year was to read a book entirely outside. I feel like because I have a garden, I really should adhere to the letter as well as the spirit of the rule, and read outside as much as possible because, you know, there's nothing stopping me being out here all day. Read a little bit of Wilder Girls, so I'm going to read Wilder Girls now for a while. We'll see how I do. I feel like the setting's kind of appropriate for Wilder Girls. So it is Wednesday. Yeah, it is Wednesday. It is so hot. I don't know how it gets this hot because it's only 24 degrees, so it's not actually that hot, but Jesus Christ, I feel like I'm melting my body off my body. So for now, as you can see, I have a giant pile of laundry. So I'm going to fold the laundry while listening to more of My Mother's House by Francesca Momplaisir. We will be folding all of the clothes. So we are in my I can't see you at all. Today's challenge was to take a photo with your pet. I don't have a pet, but we do have 2 stray cats. Well, 3 cats. I don't think they're strays. I think they're neighbourhood cats. But they haven't turned up today. The one day that I need them, they don't turn up. So I might just take a picture with my plant children. But first I need to repot my courgettes. Fatigue has hit me hard, so is peripheral neuropathy, so I am in bed, as you can tell, and I'm not lifting the phone above my head to film because of fatigue. So I'm just lying here. I'm going to listen to my mother's house, Francesca Momplaisir, because I'm going to try and finish this one and Wilder Girls, because Saturday I might be going to London. Hello, it's Thursday, the day that I finish Wilder Girls. I probably shouldn't be making promises like that, but keep myself accountable, tell you that I'm going to do it. I've just edited my video, it's exporting now, I'm going to upload it for today, and I have some book mail, which is exciting because I don't normally buy books, but with the lockdown and all the libraries being closed, I have ended up buying 4 books, which is the most I've bought in a year. I've only got 2 here, 2 previous. I showed you them before in different vlogs. But these are for the Readathon. The Readathon. It's a Canadian Readathon that's hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. Sorry, that was probably really loud. Hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. So I have got 2 books by Canadian authors here, and I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. I am planning to read 5 books in 1 week during the Readathon. Normally I only do 3. Sometimes I manage 4, but I have decided to do 5 small books. So that is my aim. This is Small Beauty by Jinqing Wilson Yang. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And this is a book about a trans Asian woman in Canada whose cousin dies, and she abandons her life in the city to live in his now empty small house. Here we are. This one is Rue, which is by Kim Thuy and is a semi-autobiographical novel, I believe, about Wen An Thinh, who escapes who escapes Vietnam and becomes a refugee in Canada. So I will tell you what the other 3 are, but here's a sneak peek. These 2, which are nice and small, with big font and wide margins, which is my favourite. Both of these books have the same feeling. They feel really like rubbery. Is that a Canadian publishing thing? So today's Instagram challenge is to take a photo where the book matches the background. That's better lighting. And so I'm taking these books out on our walk with us in hopes of finding some foliage. and I know I promised this morning that I was going to read all of Wilder Girls today, but it is now 5:30 and I'm only now going to start reading it, so I don't know if I'll finish it today. However, I just intended to go outside to read it because it's just started raining. It's just started raining as I decided to come outside. So I've got my brolly and I'm going to sit out here with the brolly. So, I am halfway through Wilder Girls now. I think that's as much as I'm going to do today because, well, actually, the weather looks like it's clearing up now. Go have a bath and get into my bed and listen to My Mother's House by Francesca Momplaisir, which I'm about a third of the way through. Again, I'm enjoying. It's really interesting having a part of the story being told from the perspective of the house. The voice actors in the audiobook are really good. I really like that, and I'm really glad I have it because there's bits of it that's in Haitian Creole. When I'm not familiar with a dialect or a vernacular, I like to listen to the audiobook because it really helps to get the mood of it. So yeah, I'm enjoying that so far, but I'm not really sure. Wilder Girls, did I talk about this? I'm halfway through Wilder Girls, and again, I'm enjoying it to a certain extent. Like, the writing, some of the writing is really nice, really lovely, but then a lot of it is just quite plain, straightforward, which is not my favourite type of writing. And so far it's been fairly predictable, but maybe it will change. It's definitely a bit eerie, but I don't really feel like it's horror yet. Like, I'm not really scared of anything. And the same is kind of true in My Mother's House. Like, I can tell that terrible things are going to happen, but I don't really feel any fear. I'm not afraid of either of these, so hopefully The Haunting of Hill House will have that more tense fear coming in, because that's what I want from horror, even though that's not something I normally want from a reading experience. It's kind of the reason I'm trying horror out. And if it's just like, okay, interesting, but not really scary, then have I picked the wrong horrors, you know? Oh my goodness, I did not realise how red I am until I just turned on the camera. So I just did my workout. It was only 20 minutes, but it was hit, and I went hard. I can probably hear. Even after my stretchy cool down that I just did for like 10 minutes, I am still a bit, well, very red and a little bit wheezy. That was a good workout. Good to get back in the saddle. So bath time, bedtime probably. No dinner today because I feel so nauseous, and I've been feeling nauseous all evening.
Grandma's dead. I know Grandma's dead.
I have been reading in the garden, reading Wilder Girls. I built a tent, kind of a tent, like a half tent. Yeah, I'm about 3/4 of the way through Wilder Girls now. Definitely think I can finish it today, except that it's like hot and there are bugs everywhere and my hay fever's bad and I'm just tired. I'm really tired today. So maybe I'll continue in the evening when the bugs seem to be less bugs in the evening. They seem to be hanging out a lot right now. Wilder Girls, again, is kind of YA, so how scary is it going to be? And also, like, is it actually horror, or is it just... People always say body horror when they're describing it, and there is a lot of body stuff, but it's not even that gratuitous, and it doesn't feel that gross to me. And I haven't really felt any tension in it. So, I don't know. I'm a scaredy cat, and neither of these books are scaring me, so we'll see what happens with The Haunting of Hill House, but... Which, again, the show is not scaring me. It's kind of boring. I don't know, maybe I'm in the wrong headspace and I'm just too detached to feel anything right now, but I don't know what I'm going to do except make lunch now. Hello friends, I have not been vlogging much today. I've not been reading much today either, but feeling quite sad. I've been having quite a high anxiety day, and also I'm on the verge of tears quite a lot of the time, and I mean, It's not been a great day. I think my period is coming. It's nearly 9 o'clock and I haven't read any of My Mother's House. I haven't finished Wilder Girls and I just feel a bit stressed and down about it. But I'm going to try and listen to My Mother's House now for a while and see how far I can get. Hello friends, so it is Sunday, last day of the reading rush, and it is raining here in Hertfordshire, and I have not finished a single book. I think I've got about an hour left of Wilder Girls, a couple of hours left on My Mother's House, and I still haven't started The Haunting of Hill House. So this is going to be a day where I actually try to read as much as possible. The only thing is, I also have to edit a video. Try and read as much as possible. I'm feeling quite fatigued. Started my period, so it's just a whole day of me looking like this, I think. Having a sort of a cosy, rainy Sunday reading day, which, you know, sometimes is all you need. I finished Wilder Girls, so that is good. I finished one book from the reading rush so far, one book in this whole week. I do only have a couple of hours left on My Mother's House, so fingers crossed for me, I'll get on that. But I have edited my video for tomorrow, which is my buddy read with Laura, so if you didn't see that, go and check it out. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with it, so now I'm just gonna, I don't know, make a cup of tea, have a biscuit, come back into bed and listen to my audiobook. I'm on the first day of my period and I'm just like, I want to lie down. Might even fill up my hot water bottle because thankfully it's not hot. Finally, it is not so sticky and hot that I just feel gross and disgusting all day. It is a nice, cool, fresh day. I would always rather it be less than 20 degrees and not humid than as soon as it goes over 20 degrees here, it also goes over like 80% humidity and you're just like, feel gross. It's like 24 degrees. You're like, why do I feel this gross? Because it's the air is basically water. So that's not nice, but whenever there's rain, it does make it fresh. Although it does mean that the slugs are probably destroying my courgettes as we speak. Really sad about that. I feel like I'm not going to get any courgettes this year because the slugs are just eating them all. I'm nearly finished My Mother's House now, so I'll tell you about My Mother's House and Wilder Girls when I finish both of them. Well, I finished Wilder Girls, but you know what I mean. So I think that vlog ended rather abruptly. I apologise for that. I did finish My Mother's House just after I filmed that last clip, and then I went on Monday to read all of The Haunting of Hill House in one day. It was a fairly short book, which I didn't realise and was quite easy to do. So I finished Wilder Girls first, and I don't know how I would rate it. It was, like, in some ways I really enjoyed it. So some of the writing was absolutely beautiful. I liked the way that the relationships were built between the three main girls. I liked the queer aspects of it. I liked some of the descriptions of nature, and the way that the tox has affected the island. I actually thought was much more interesting than the way that it had affected the girls. And I liked the kind of almost dreamlike atmosphere that was built up. However, for me, that dreamlike atmosphere meant that I didn't feel particularly tense the whole time because I was just kind of like floating along. And I also found it fairly predictable, the way that it turned out. So I never really felt a huge sense of threat. There were parts of the body horror that were kind of viscerally disgusting, but they were few and far between. Most of it was kind of fairy-like. it didn't really feel horrific to me at any point. So I don't know if maybe I've miscategorized it by placing it in horror, or if it's because it's a YA book and so it's not going to like go as far as an adult horror book. I feel kind of meh, which sounds harsh because I did enjoy the experience of reading it and I liked the characters. And I also liked the ending. Not to spoil anything, but I love when books end in that way. Nothing happened and then everything happened, and I think that that's quite common in both like speculative YA kind of stuff and also horror. But overall, I was trying to read books that would scare me and it just didn't even make me feel tense. So it failed for me in that respect. The second book that I read was my favourite, and that was My Mother's House by Francesca Momplaisir. Now, again, I don't know if I've miscategorised this by putting it in horror, but it is a book that feels quite hard to categorise, aside from saying that it's literary fiction. I would say it was literary fiction. Momplaisir is playing with structure in the way that she writes this. Like, there's sections that are told from the perspective of the house. The house has a consciousness, and the way that there are flashbacks and the way that everything is revealed is very non-linear, but it's not like, oh, this timeline and this timeline. It's like chunks all put together. You have people telling what happened in the past in very different ways. There are people who have suffered trauma and have mental illnesses based on that trauma, and it affects the way that their narrative is told. So I would definitely think it was literary, more literary than the others. There is a lot of horrific things that humans do in this book, but I didn't feel that any of them were ever described in a gratuitous way, which can sometimes happen. It didn't feel very voyeuristic. It felt like enough was being told for you to understand what was going on without it feeling like there was any sort of enjoyment in it. It also made me very interested in reading more about Haitian history and more Haitian books, and I liked listening to the audiobook because there was a moment with a Haitian song in it, which is sung by the audiobook narrator, who I believe is Haitian or Haitian American. Again, I liked listening to the audiobook because it is written in, parts of it are written in Haitian Creole or sort of an anglicised Haitian Creole, having the accents and the voices who know that vernacular speak through the story makes it much easier for me to understand. So overall I liked it, but again, I didn't feel very tense or nervous or like on the edge of my seat. It was more horror at the brutality of humans, which is something you can read in things like The Last King of Scotland or The Tattooist of Auschwitz, neither of which are described as horror, but they are about horrible things that humans do. And then finally, I read The Haunting of Hill House in one day, and this was the one I was most nervous for because it's a ghost story and because I felt like it was the most like clearly horror. This one is scary. It wasn't scary. It was the only one where there were a couple of times where I felt like, oh, the tension is building, but it never really went anywhere. And the ending felt like the tone just seemed to twist really strangely, and there was also a lot of girl hate, woman hate. It was like the house was turning the women against each other, and it was always like, as women do when women fight, which like it is written by a woman, but it was written in 1959, and so I don't know if the internalised misogyny there, it felt odd. I thought that some of them were well developed and some of them were underdeveloped. I thought the atmosphere was really good. I definitely felt the atmosphere of it in the daytime, but the house at night, the scariness of it, just wasn't there for me. So, I read 3 horror books and I wasn't scared, which coming from a self-professed horror scaredy cat is saying something. Or maybe it's just saying that I'm more scared of horror. I'm more scared of horror films than I am of horror books. Or maybe I chose 3 like low-level horrors subconsciously because I didn't want to scare myself too much. I'm not sure. I feel like I want to read more horror now, even though I didn't love the horror books I'd read, because I want to feel scared, which is not something I ever thought I would feel, because that's not something I generally go for in books. I didn't enjoy the thrillers week of this. If you want to go and check that out, you might see more horror from me in the future, which is definitely not where I thought this was going at all. Do you read horror books? Please let me know in the comments a horror book you've enjoyed, because apparently I need to find something scary. That's how I'm feeling at the moment. That is the end of my 6 weeks, 6 genres challenge. It feels like it only started a week ago, and it also feels like I've been vlogging forever. I'm looking forward to having a week off next week. There will be a wrap-up video where I talk about my feelings about the whole project as a whole coming next week. So please subscribe to look out for that. Please remember to like this video if you liked it, give a big thumbs up and subscribe, because only 50% of the people who watch my videos subscribe. So I would like that to be higher. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again on Tuesday. Bye bye.